Welcome aboard for the Glenn Clark Radio Show. This is Stan the Fan filling in for GCR himself, or GC, I guess.
Did you forget his name? I thought you forgot his name for a second.
What's that?
I thought you forgot his name for a second.
No, I just, I know he likes to use that moniker, the GCR.
GCR.
So, but he himself is not GCR, he's GC. Anyway, I'm Stan the Fan. Griffin Bass is across from me in the studios in Towson for the Glenn Clark Radio Show. Here's what we've got for you today on the show. Griffin and I will be manning the post today. At 10:20, we're going to talk to Lou Merloni of WEEI in Boston. And I think he's with Nesson as well.
So, yeah. So he's analyst for the Red Sox. So.
Yeah, he's an analyst for the Red Sox. And we'll talk to him about what it's been like in Boston the last year and a half and how difficult it was for him to replace somebody I'm sure he was very friendly with, Jerry Remy, who passed away, a long-time Major League Baseball infielder, mostly with the Angels, did play a little bit for the Red Sox, but ended up in the broadcast booth for, gosh, I'm going to guess over 20 years there in Boston, maybe closer to 25, 27. We'll talk to him at 10:20, talk to him about the newest member of that Boston Red Sox team coming fresh off of the WBC championship, Masaki Yoshida, who is a member of Route 66, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that's
what's really important.
That's why you got to ask about him.
Yeah, of course.
Trying to get some
I
information
don't
about
care
your fantasy baseball team.
About my fantasy, it's all about that now. Lou Merloni joins us. We'll talk to him about how tough this is going to be for the Red Sox to climb from last place back to contention and whether or not they've got the pitching to do it. The offense will be formidable at times. Looks a little streaky to me, but we'll see how Lou feels about the Red Sox chances to contend in a rather deep American League East. 10:40, old friend Adam Gladstone, who is former minor league umpire, also former worked for Cal Ripken Baseball for a couple of years, also worked for the York Revolution for a couple of years, and then found himself, Griffin, as the video assist guy for the Baltimore Orioles under Buck Showalter, and he did that for, I believe, 2 seasons, but his latest incarnation, amongst many things that he does, is he is the assistant GM of the Team Israel entry into the World Baseball Classic. This year, 2023, didn't go like it did in 2017 when Israel kind of snuck up on a lot of people and won actually 4 games. This year, I think they won 1 game, Team Israel. Gotcha. But we'll talk to him, his experience, and a special part of his experience was a relationship he has with the Bat Boy for Team Israel this year. We'll talk to him about that. We'll, at around 11 o'clock, we're not going to talk to Jeff Zrebiec, but Gary Stein and I had Jeff on Pressbox Live Zoom last night, and we'll play parts of it, and Griffin and I will comment, compare, contrast about the Lamar Jackson saga as it goes on. At 11:20, Don Markus. You all know Don Markus wrote for many, many years for the Baltimore Sun, and amongst his many jobs that he did over the Sun in a career that probably was close to 30 years at the Baltimore Sun, and what he's mostly known for is his coverage of the University of Maryland basketball team. It's a passion for him. We'll talk to him, get his grade on how he thinks that Kevin Willard did in year 1. Okay? We're going to talk a little bit about opening day, but I want to remind everybody that.
What you got here? We're talking about PressBoxOnline.com/offers, right?
I'm going to do that, yep. And that is that baseball season is here, and for the very first time in history, you can bet from your phone in Maryland. That's right, you can bet from your phone in Maryland. Go to PressBoxOnline.com/offers for the best sportsbook offers and incentives so you can start winning today. Get up to $1,000 in a deposit bonus match plus a $50 free bet with DraftKings. Just go to PressBoxOnline.com offers to claim your incentive. And we'll also tell you that the Glenn Clark Radio Show is brought to you by the Toyota Tacoma, which comes in a range of models and trim lines. You can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer. All right?
How'd your opening day go?
My opening day, well, it didn't go that great because I made 3 wagers on one of my apps, and the closest one I had, I bet a 3-team parlay of the Atlanta Braves to win by more than a run and a half. What was the second game I had?
The Braves did win by a run and a half, so you were looking good.
They covered. I had Texas with Jacob deGrom on the mound. That game didn't end the way I envisioned it, but they did win by 1.5 runs.
They did,
and then I went with the surest thing on the board was the Los Angeles Angels and Ohtani minus a run and a half, and they were up 1-0 through about 6 innings.
I think it was 8 innings,
and they didn't win the game even.
Yep,
so,
yep. That is how the Angels do. That is just what they do. I think.
Yeah.
They have Ohtani do something that no one's ever done before, and then they blow it.
That was against a team, the Oakland Athletics, may be playing in their last or next to last season in Oakland. There at the now it's called the Ring Central.
Is that what it is?
Coliseum there. It's
they
had
call
about
it Ricky
12
Henderson Field.
names. I wonder if it's still Ricky Henderson Field.
I think that's what it said, like at least behind home plate.
Yeah,
but in terms of your fandom, though, how did your team do? Like your hometown team.
The Orioles?
Yeah.
The Orioles did amazingly well yesterday, although it proved to be a nail-biter extraordinaire. The Orioles hold on to win 10-9. They led in the late innings. Was it 10-3 or 10-4?
It was 10-4 entering the 8th.
Through the 8th.
Yeah.
Entering
the
into
8th.
the bottom of the 8th.
Mm-hmm.
Red Sox scored 3 in the 8th and 2 in the 9th. And Felix Bautista wasn't picture perfect yesterday, but he got the job done. And the Orioles came away with an opening day victory of 10-9. Kyle Gibson pitched well. Unfortunately, I would have really liked to have seen him get through that 6th inning, and there was a misplay by who? Which misplay was that? There was it Mullins misplayed a ball?
Was it Santander? Santander was having a day and left.
Yeah,
I remember that.
Yeah, I would have gotten Santander when they were ahead, like 9-2 or 8-2. Santander would have been out of left field and into the dugout.
Yeah,
for
I
me.
think Mullins. I think it was Mullins. Mullins did have.
Anyway,
had his error.
they quickly manager Brandon Hyde experienced enough to know that things can go nuts in Boston very quickly. I don't think he really counted on Gibson going like into the 7th or 8th, but I think he would have liked. He sent him out for the 5th, but with 2 runners on and nobody out, they opted to go to the bullpen. You know who I thought looked really terrific yesterday was Keegan Aiken.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
First of all, he's trimmed down. He's got rid of that punch that he has, and his ball was really hopping.
He's grown some facial hair, too, I think.
What's that?
He's grown some facial hair, too, so I think might all be part of it.
I didn't know that. But they win 10-9. As we said, it became a nail-biter, but we got a historical situation yesterday with Adley, not the Trump indictment. No, Adley Rutschman went 5 for 5. And he becomes the first catcher ever
on opening day,
to have 5 hits.
Yep, 5 hits on opening day.
Okay.
And not only that, 5 for 5. Yeah.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Do you have any observations about the game or anything that looked as particularly special for the hometown 9?
I think the bullpen is once again I think is going to be a strength. Obviously, it showed yesterday that they were missing Dylan Tate and they were missing Michael Givens. So once they come back,
they're missing DL Hall.
They're missing DL Hall. So once they come back,
I'm laughing because apparently Mike Elias doesn't agree with us.
Oh, that DL Hall should be out there.
DL is a relief pitcher. They're stretching him out.
Oh,
he's way too valuable. He's shown so much value at the major league level so far as a starting pitcher. At one start in Tampa last year. They are making a huge mistake.
With DL Hall, you think so?
With DL Hall. Right, huge mistake.
But yeah, I mean, so Brian Baker, I don't think will last very long. We'll see. I mean, he did not look great yesterday. Obviously, he was getting hit pretty hard. But I mean, if the offense is going to be like this every single night, then I mean, this is going to be a really fun team to watch day in and day out, whether the bullpen shows up or not. So
yeah.
So
well, it was good. It was good.
Well,
I don't take that much away from Brian Baker. He had a great second half of last year while the rest of the bullpen kind of faded. He stepped up late in the season, the last 6 weeks, and really held it together a little bit. So I'm not taking too much away from that. But he and Michael Bowman ended up beating out Logan Gillespie.
Yeah, Gillespie.
They ended up making Bowman and Gillespie made the team, and Joey Crable did not make the team. He was optioned to Norfolk. So again, Orioles win 10-9 Saturday afternoon. I believe at 2:05.
4:10.
4:10. That's right. Like I said,
4-1-0, baby.
And who's pitching? Is it
Kramer?
Sale?
Yeah, Kramer versus Sale.
versus Samer. Okay. Sale for the Red Sox, Kramer for the Baltimore Orioles, and then they'll close out the 3-game stand in Boston at 1:35 on Sunday. And is that
Irvin?
Cole Irvin is
Cole Irvin
pitching.
versus Tanner Houck for Boston.
Tanner Houck
for Boston. Yeah.
Okay. Did not have a good spring. Tanner Houck.
No.
Not a good spring.
We'll talk more Orioles later, but right now we got to take care of the thing behind it, right, Stan?
You mean the thing that's brought to you by Glory Days Grill?
That is the exact thing I'm talking about.
Good food, good sports.
Glory Days Grill.
Yeah.
Love
and
it.
that is the Lamar-O-Meter.
The Lamar-O-Meter, yeah.
Yeah. How we feeling today?
I mean,
how does this thing? Don't you run it through the computer chip?
Yeah. So the way it works is that I am actually running it through the computer. It just needs your hand on it at the same time. Yeah, at the same time, your hand. Oh God, are you moving it down, Stan?
Wait a minute.
Okay. We were at 70% yesterday, and that was kind of on the heels. So Drew put it at 82%. Oh, so is that your final spot? You're moving it up?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
78%.
Go ahead and explain it.
Talking to Jeff Zrebiec last night, this thing is broken. The relationship between Lamar, but I don't know where both sides go at this point. It's been a full week or so since Lamar now has come out with the pronouncement that he, in fact, did request a trade on March the 2nd, and there hasn't been. So the Ravens know that he's willing to be traded, wants to be traded. They've also tagged him with a non-exclusive tag. That means teams understand that they can come and negotiate with Lamar and come to an agreement with Lamar, and the Ravens can match that agreement or trade him to that team and get that team two first-round picks from that team. Do we know, are the rules that they would be consecutive year number one picks?
Yeah, I mean, so essentially that's like kind of the minimum. However, I mean, if Lamar says I'm not playing for the Ravens and a team comes in and they're like, we're going to be able to get a deal done, the trade can essentially be whatever at that point because they're just going to trade over the franchise. So that could be a
player and two other, like a first, a player, and a third or something.
Yeah, so that's kind of how the conversation's going with the 49ers. Like the 49ers would throw in Trey Lance, probably another like 2 or 3 first-round picks at that point just because.
But they have this guy, Purdy, that played pretty well last year. So I don't know that they're in the market for Lamar Jackson.
Well, I mean.
And, I read the
Lions. Thing, though, is Brock Purdy's very expendable. He was a 7th-round pick. He was Mr. Irrelevant. So if you move on from him, it's easy. And,
yeah.
It's not. I mean, Trey Lance. That's why they've kind of. I think that's kind of why they came out and said, Brock Purdy. We're going to move forward with Brock Purdy as our leader. Is what I think the 49ers said, and they couldn't say that about Trey Lance.
How would acquiring Lamar Jackson help clarify their quarterback situation? What it would do?
Well, I guess Lamar would be the quarterback.
It would get Trey Lance out of there.
Yes. Yeah. Essentially, because
I don't see them very interested in Lamar Jackson, and. I think there needs to be a little truth spoken here, and that is that the way Lamar has conducted himself in negotiating with a top organization in the National Football League, and this isn't me speaking as some sort of homer, Um, I just think, and you'll hear a couple of quotes, and then Griffin and I will bat it back and forth around 11 o'clock from our Press Box Live interview last night with Jeff Zrebiec. Gary Stein and I interviewed him. I think just from the get-go, how long it took him to come to the table, what was he waiting for that he only decided to really jumpstart negotiations at the beginning of training camp last year? What was wrong with all of the previous offseason when he still had tremendous value? Now he's had 2 seasons in a row where he's missed substantial time at the end of a football season. I think his value has gone down markedly with the way he's handled himself, and that's why the Lamar-O-Meter today, from my point of view, is trending up, that he will remain a Baltimore Raven. It might not be the happiest thing in the world for him, and it'll be interesting to see whether or not John Harbaugh and DeCosta, Steve Bisciotti can somehow make peace out of all this and get a productive Lamar Jackson playing quarterback for the Ravens. I personally would really root for a different outcome at this point in time. I think the fractured relationship is not really repairable. On a personal level, it might be repairable down the road. You know, when Lamar Jackson is 38 years old and comes back here maybe to go into the Ring of Honor or something.
You do think it's reparable enough, though, that he'll be back for at least one season, at least week 1?
I think both sides don't have favorable options at this point in time. You know, one of the teams I heard that could be interested would be the Detroit Lions. Who's their coach, the former
Dan Campbell.
Dan Campbell,
former player.
Do you really think
him.
Dan Campbell wants to create a whole new offense surrounding Lamar Jackson for this coming season right now?
I
don't see it.
I think he would. I mean, the way that those players would, come to Lamar Jackson's, aid and, his support, bring him in, that Dan Campbell would do that, because he, at this point, he seems like a very, very, probably one of the best player coaches in the league right now. So I think, while it doesn't sound very easy, I think if they could pull it off, I think he would.
From my point of view, getting like maybe a first round and a third round and Jared Goff seems like a good deal to me from where the Ravens are sitting right now. It gives them a very competent NFL quarterback. He's not a top-tier quarterback, although he has had moments. He did lead a team to a Super Bowl a couple of years ago, albeit a team that lost. They lost that game to the Tampa Bay, right?
Who does?
The Rams.
The Rams won the Super Bowl in 2022, so the 2021 season.
Right, but the year before, I think, or the 2
years.
Yes,
they lost to Tampa. Yeah, they lost to Tampa in the playoffs.
Yeah, all right. So anyway, that's what we have, the Lamar-O-Meter, brought to you by Glory Days Grill. Good food, good sports.
Mm-hmm. What's your favorite thing on the Glory Days menu, Stan?
They have an incredible New England clam chowder that is rather fantastic. And I really like a good BLT, and they make a good BLT over there. Yeah. So
I think it's because of Glenn. Glenn's put me on it, but those smoky thigh wings with the Korean number 2. That's right. That's a go-to.
Well, you guys are exotic eaters. There's no question about it. You're very risk-oriented eaters. There's no question about it.
I guess so.
Hey, O's fans, did you know that one of your fellow fans is the owner of Birdland Sports? That's right. Josh Soroka from the Section 336 podcast is behind Birdland Sports. He knows what fellow fans want and has created an amazing collection. Look at that shirt, the Gunnar Henderson Special. All right. He's created an amazing collection of merchandise just for you, from the popular Birds Are Coming tees to unique player cartoon shirts and World Series prediction designs. Birdland Sports has everything you need to show off your O's pride. And with prices more affordable than the big guys, you can support a small business run by one of your own. Don't wait. Head to Birdland Sports today and show your support for the birds with Birdland Sports. All right. What's next?
We will be talking we'll talk more baseball after opening day yesterday.
We've got
Red
Lou
Sox?
Merloni on the line.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
All right, joining us is former Major League Baseball infielder Lou Merloni. Lou, Stan the Fan in Baltimore, how are you today?
I'm good, guys. How you doing?
We're
Feeling
good.
better after yesterday, aren't you?
Griffin Bass is with us here in studio. First of all, have you thawed out since yesterday?
I'm sorry, have I what?
Thawed out.
Yeah, it was a little bit chilly. Sun was out, just wasn't working. So it's just what happens in the Northeast, and at least it wasn't raining.
Hey,
Saturday.
I want to talk to you before we dig into the Red Sox. You replaced, or were one of the replacements for kind of a broadcasting icon in Boston, and Jerry Remy. On opening day, I'm sure your mind had to turn to Jerry a little bit.
Yeah, I think it has for a lot of people. You know, even like down in spring training, you go down there and you hear a lot of people talking about Jerry Remy and some of the things that, you know, people are just accustomed to, old stories. So I don't think there's any question about it. You don't do the job as long as he did, and you mean a lot to Red Sox fans. You're in the living room every single day. So, it was kind of a day of remembering, you know, one of the greats from us, at least.
No question about it. And the baseball family lost a really good person, much like they did a couple of years ago in Nick Cafardo, who passed away. So my thoughts are with you on that. Tell us a little bit about your perception of this club this year, the Boston Red Sox.
Well, I think that's one of the things with everybody, kind of trying to figure out what the plan is, like what's the direction. Now, they have some young guys on this roster. They filled them with a bunch of older players, some veterans. But to me, it's like their vulnerability really got exposed yesterday. You know, when you have guys like Bayo and Whitlock a week or two away from joining this rotation, you take guys like Crawford and Houck out of the pen and put them in the rotation, and they just don't have enough depth out there to do that. And you saw it yesterday with guys like Brazier and guys like Ort trying to come in and try to keep the game close, and they just couldn't. So, you know, they're a little bit thin. There's questions about the depth. The lineup is okay. The rotation, when you get those two guys in there, will be okay. It's just I always worry about the bullpen. But really, it's more of a big picture thing for Sox fans. Like, what's the direction? Like, when do they turn back into the Red Sox again? Like, when do they sign big-time free agents? You know, when are they one of the top two teams in the division, not battling for the final two spots? It's just the way it is right now.
Lou, how shocked were you? And I know you work for the club now, and you're a straight shooter. How shocking was it to you that they really didn't make a more sincere effort to sign Xander Bogaerts?
Yeah, I think that's kind of leads to the whole, like, what is going on type of thing. Mm-hmm. You know, they're really kind of locked in on this whole, like, you know, an extension, and when we get the free agency, we'll offer a free agent contract. Well, you know, a lot of times when you lowball a player, they don't forget that.
Yeah.
And when you get the free agency, you just invite other teams to go nuts, which is what the Padres did. I think everybody was in the 7-year ballpark for Xander, and they felt like in the end, you know, they could kind of make a final offer and maybe get him back to Boston. But when San Diego won 11 years, everybody just sort of washed their hands with it and said, yeah, I don't want any part of that, which I would agree with. The problem is, if you had offered, you know, a 5-year $150 in spring training when the extensions were supposed to be happening, instead of 4 years, $90 million, just sort of seems out of touch with the market. And I think that was probably the big question that fans had. You know, why not wrap this thing up? You didn't have to go 11 years. You could have got him for 5 or 6 back in March last year. And because of that, you know, last season, it sort of like hung over everybody. Dark cloud, right? Bogey's on a 1-year deal. Vasquez on a 1-year deal. Eovaldi, J.D. Martinez, your leaders. Yeah. And that's a tough way to play 162 when none of your leaders know what the future holds.
Do you think that the game plan, which ran askew, was that, hey, we're going to get a cheaper version of our shortstop in Trevor Story, and then we'll be able to take the hit of Bogaerts leaving, and that fell apart with the injury to Story?
Yeah, I think that was a lot behind the Story signing, you know, a year ago, that he could take over shortstop. Obviously, the arm injury kind of hurts that. But it's a game of adapting. You know, it's a game about having enough depth to adapt to one, you know, injury or 2 injuries, you know, and that's what it's all about. So it's, yeah, you know, Story was fantastic at second. I like to leave him there, especially with the ban of the shift. Like, second base athleticism is more important than ever, you know. So, I don't think every plan works out the way you expect, but I think that's part of kind of adapting on the fly.
How much, before we talk about Chaim Bloom's plan, how much of the plan was sort of like how a team will have a tough manager, he gets fired and they get a player's manager? How much of this move from Dombrowski to Bloom was frugality on John Henry's part, wanting to be able to field a more nimble financial situation around his payroll?
Yeah, I think John Henry is always kind of, his eyes are open to the financial aspect of baseball, the business side of it, and long-term deals. And, we all want to keep the stars. I always said I want to fast forward 5 or 6 years from now and see what all these 10-year, 12-year contracts that sign guys that are 40, 41 years old, what they look like then. But apparently no one's worried about it, They just keep doing it. I think that the move to Bloom was Dave Dombrowski, the tail end of his tenure here. I think him trading away prospects and gutting the system is overrated. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of the prospects the Red Sox have coming up in the big leagues right now are from Dave Dombrowski.
Yep.
And the number one farm system in all of baseball, when Dombrowski traded away, didn't really produce a major leaguer that you missed. It just didn't. Nobody that he traded away has ever really did well at a high level. He looked at Chaim Bloom and said, okay, there's another way to win. And I still think he wants to win. I don't think it was about saving money. It was just, the game has evolved. You can't win like that. So let's try to find another way to win. And here we are, year 4. And depending on how this year goes, nobody really knows what John Henry is thinking. But the previous 2 general managers were all let go after year 4. So we'll see how that impacts this team and Chaim Bloom's future.
So Lou, you've covered this division for a long time now, the AL East, and it's one of the best in baseball. Like, how do you kind of look at this division entering this season? Obviously, everyone kind of expects the Orioles and Red Sox to be at the bottom, but we've seen before, teams in this division have gone from the top to the bottom or bottom to the top, and vice versa.
Yeah, as far as like the bottom, I think there's a reason why people are talking about Boston and Baltimore in the bottom. I think Baltimore's still trending up. I always joke about the gambling aspect of it. People say, what do you think? Is Red Sox 78.5? I say, well, I like it, the over, but not as much as Baltimore's over 76.5. I think that it's a good team. But it's still the Blue Jays and Yankees and Rays, in my opinion. I'm not sure much has changed, especially with the Rodon injury in New York. We'll see how he rebounds, but I think that's still a flawed team. I think the Blue Jays, everybody keeps waiting for them to kind of grab a hold of the AL East, and for some reason they refuse to do so. Meanwhile, Tampa Bay is going to go win 90 games, and they're going to be in the postseason because they do it with pitching, and they do it with a solid lineup 1 through 9.
And so you talk about the win total numbers there. Why do you think so many people are predicting regression for the Orioles? I mean, this team won 83 games a year ago, and now they're going to have more young guys coming up. You expect the rotation to continue to get better, I would think at least. So, and why do you think people will see regression for them?
Well, I can't speak for the people that do it, but personally, I was a little disappointed in the offseason. I thought the Orioles were ready to take off. I thought they had some great young talent. And, as much as I like Adam Frazier, but I feel like that was the only addition. I felt like there was a veteran bat out there for them to put with the kids. I felt like there was, a veteran arm, even though I like, Gibson. I saw Irvin in camp. I thought he looked fantastic. I just felt like they could go kind of all in a little bit, with some guys for the next 5 or 6 years because they have such good young core. And, a lot of it last year was, the rotation was okay. The lineup was good. The bullpen was fantastic. I think people look at bullpens as saying, it can go up and down. A great guy has a great year in the bullpen, and he could be awful the next year. So maybe that was a little bit of the decision-making, but after watching them and seeing them in camp, I still think it's a very good lineup. I think their pitching is better than maybe people want to give them credit for. And I still think their bullpen's legit. So it's a fun team. I don't think Adley's going to get 5 hits every single night, but he's fun to watch.
Hey, Lou, I wanted to talk to you a little bit. I wanted to circle back and grab a couple of questions about the Red Sox, but wanted to get your take on the new rules so far. I mean, when I say so far, they've played one game of the regular season, but you saw it in play, saw the new rules. Your thoughts on what they'll do to the game?
First off, I like the rules. I think the pitch clock is long overdue. The problem with the pitch clock is that now we have to react to it. And by that I mean, okay, well, if we have a pitch clock, well, it's going to prevent someone from just stepping off. Okay, you know what? Let's let him throw over twice. Okay, well, if he's got to throw it 15 seconds, what if the hitter's not alert? Okay, we have to make the hitter alert at 8 seconds. And we're trying to speed the game up, so the guy's got to throw this last warm-up pitch at 30 seconds. I feel like I'm trying to find the middle ground, of the hitter alert thing is one I really don't like. I feel it should be batter in the box at 8 seconds. Like as a hitter, like yesterday, Devers kind of peaked, and the pitcher wasn't ready to throw. So he just sort of looked back down again, and they banged him for, strike 3. So I feel like that's where the adjustment has to come. I like it in the game. I do worry about the postseason. I do, because I think the extra time adds stress, adds drama. It's the beauty of it. You look at that WBC, Ohtani versus Trout. I don't want to rush that.
Yeah.
I want that to breathe a little bit. You know what I mean? So we'll see postseason. But as we saw yesterday, I think in that late inning, 7, 8, 9, is when we're going to start seeing some violations because the game's on the line, and players are just used to sort of taking a little bit more time.
So what do you think about this? Let me just run a grand picture by you. 2 years from now, let's say, they introduce the robo-umpire behind home plate, calling balls and strikes. I think that's going to actually take another 10 to 15 minutes off of games. There's no hint of grumbling, I think that's going to speed the game up even more. What do you think about the compromise being the first 6 innings, the rules are this way, but 7, 8, and 9 or extra innings, they revert back to something a little slower so baseball can milk the drama of close baseball games?
Yeah, I think that's a discussion to be had. I mean, we'll see the umpires, in the minor leagues, what that does to the game. I just think it's going to be hard for like a reliever to sit there and say, today you come in the 6th and you're a pitch clock. Tomorrow, the next time you're out there in the 8th and you can take your time.
Good point.
I think that's going to be hard for them to adjust. So I was surprised that the pitch clock was 15 seconds. I just thought 20 was universal. Like, I'm not trying to make the guy that throws the ball at 24 seconds, 23 seconds speed up. I'm trying to stop the guy that throws it at 30. You know what I mean? Yeah. Those are the guys that annoy the hell out of me.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like 15 to 20. I thought there would be an adjustment period. I thought there would be like 20 and 24, maybe year 1. Let's see how it goes. Let's use our data. Let's find out that most guys are throwing it at 18. Okay, fine. Let's go 18, 24. Whatever, something like that. The game's going to speed up with a pitch clock. But now they've added a lot of things because of it that at times pop up and make it look a little clunky.
Interesting. Circling back to the Sox before we let you go. Tomorrow, Chris Sale hits the mound. This is an important season for him and his tenure in Boston. What did you see this spring from Chris Sale?
I saw a healthy Sale. His worst outing was actually against the Orioles. He gave up 9 hits, 6 runs in camp. And that was the day where he did not have a slider, which is the last thing I worry about because I've already seen it 3 or 4 times in camp. And it's still a very effective burying in on righties. I see a guy throwing 95, 96. That's really, it sounds stupid, but that's really all I want to see from him. And the power back in his game and the fact that he's healthy. The changeup was playing. So it's like I can't predict another bicycle incident. I can't predict another line drive, broken pinky. But as far as his arm goes, it looks healthy, and that's all that matters to me. So I don't know. Is the rain going to affect these guys tomorrow? We'll see, but I expect him to be strong as long as he's out in the mound.
All right. Got to circle back. One question about the biggest signing of the offseason is outfielder Masataka Yoshida, who was a star of the WBC. Your early impressions of him as a player?
Very impressed with watching him swing the bat. He's a little guy. He's 5'8", and it's absolute bombs. Like, I didn't think he had that power. It's like an easy approach. You could see why he sees the ball very well. There's not a lot of action in his swing. And he came over and signed as a leadoff guy because it was on base percentage. And I think over time in BP and then World Baseball Classic, all of a sudden now Cora has switched to having him hit 4th. So I think, he's a run producer. I think it's a good signing. Red Sox took a lot of heat for giving this guy $18 million. And by the time it's over, I think it'll look like a pretty good deal.
Yeah, that's the way it looks to me. I love watching.
Yeah.
I would love watching professional hitters that control at bats, and that's what he does. That's what our guy Rutschman does. It's what a guy like Paul O'Neill used to do. I love watching that. There's a real art to that. Hey, Lou, many thanks for spending a few minutes with us today. Okay?
You got it, guys.
All
Anytime.
Right.
Enjoy the rest of the weekend.
Thank you, buddy. All right. That's Lou Merloni, sidekick on Boston Red Sox broadcast, sidekick analyst on Boston Red Sox broadcast, both in the radio, WEEI, in Boston and on Nesson. So good guy, very popular hire there to replace Jerry Remy. The Baltimore County Police Department is hosting a hiring camp tomorrow at the Public Safety Building in Towson. That's right. If you have a passion for service and want a career for life, this is your chance to complete multiple stages of the hiring process, including the agility test, interview, personal history, and review and fingerprinting. The Baltimore County Police Department has competitive salaries, signing bonuses, and great opportunities for advancement. To participate in the camp, you have to sign up today by calling 410-887-5521. That's 410-887-5521. And if you want to learn more, visit BaltimoreCountyPD.com. Adam Gladstone will be up in just a couple moments. We'll take a time out here on the show.
Are you a diehard O's fan looking for the perfect way to show your team spirit? Look no further than Birdland Sports. Birdland Sports is a small business run by fans for fans. They offer a wide variety of unofficial O's merchandise, from the Birds Are Coming tees to player cartoon shirts and more. And the best part? Their prices are more affordable than the big guys. So head to birdlandsports.com and grab your gear today. Show your support for the Birds with Birdland Sports.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Luke Jackson profiles Orioles phenom Gunnar Henderson, breaking down how he was able to become the top prospect in baseball at such a young age, and what could be next in his first full MLB season. Also inside, we meet lacrosse players from the men's and women's college programs across the state, and Bo Smoka breaks down another year of wide receiver issues for the Ravens. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition, as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
Have you experienced hardship due to COVID-19? CCBC has great news for you. We have funding available for short-term career programs like project management starting this March. Gain valuable skills to advance your career and get back on track. With CCBC's project management program, you'll learn how to effectively plan, organize, and execute projects. This is your chance to make a positive change in life. Contact us at 443-840-2222 or online ccbcmd.edu for more information. CCBC Project Management. Your new career starts now with funding available. 443-840-2222 or ccbcmd.edu.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
The Baltimore County Police Department is hiring. Entry-level officers start at over $60,000 and over $64,000 for lateral officers, with $10,000 signing bonuses available. Plus, cadets start at over $32,000. Great benefits are available like medical, dental, and vision insurance, tuition reimbursement, 15 sick days per calendar year with no limit, career advancement to more than 20 specialized units, and more, with further incentives for military service members and veterans. A passion for service, a career for life with the Baltimore County Police Department. Find out more at joinbaltimorecountypd.com or call 410-887-5542. Must be a United States citizen, have a valid driver's license, and a high school diploma or GED equivalent.
If you miss anything on the show, don't forget that you can watch full episodes at youtube.com/pressboxonline, and you can download podcasts on Apple, iTunes, Amazon, and Grindr. Wait, did I say Grindr? I don't think that you would find it on Grindr. Not that I know it's on Grindr or anything, I swear. On second thought, you know what? I don't care what you think. Here's Glenn.
Actually, it's Stan sitting in for Glenn Clark. He'll be back on Monday to host the show named after him, Glenn Clark Radio. Guilford Hall Brewery in Station North is the place to be for Monday's college basketball championship game. The game will air on Guilford Hall's 22-foot screen with food and drink specials during the game, including all-you-can-drink beer for just $25. If you haven't been to Guilford Hall Brewery yet, this is a great chance to check it out. See you at Guilford Hall Monday night for the college basketball title game. Wonder who's going to be in that game. My picks right now would be San Diego State versus Connecticut.
I don't think I can pick against FAU at this point. They just, I think I picked against them every single round. You know, just doing a bet, and they've gotten me every time. So I probably will bet on them, and then San Diego State will win, just because I can't predict this FAU team.
Do we have Mr. Gladstone with us?
We do.
By the way, I just wanted to complete the Lamar-O-Meter. My reason for it being set at 78%. I don't think the team, and it's brought to you by Glory Days Grills. Good food, good sports, is that I don't think either side has much of a wiggle room of how to get through the 23-24 season. So we'll see. All right, joining us now is an old friend, Adam Gladstone. He happens to be, and I hope I get this right, Adam, you are more or less the assistant general manager of Team Israel. Is that the right position title?
Yeah, you know what? Director of baseball operations, assistant GM, gopher, whatever needs to be done, I'm there.
I like director of baseball operations because that's really, let's get to the core of what you do for Team Israel, Adam Gladstone. At its core, it's you help figure out who are potential options to be on Team Israel's roster. Is that correct?
I think I'm a resource. We had a pretty good staff in place this year with obviously Ian Kinsler and Brad Osmus and Kevin Euclid and Jerry Nairn and Tiger Peterson and some scouts. And we really got a lot of help from a lot of the front offices around baseball this year because of their connection to Judaism, connection to Israel. And everybody pitched in. And I think that it was all hands on deck. And, it's funny. It was the best team talent-wise we ever put on a field, but it was our worst result we ever had, mainly because we faced, put it in soccer terms, we were in the pool of death, and we're facing Puerto Rico, Major League All-Stars, the Dominican Republic, Major League All-Stars, Venezuela, Major League All-Stars, and you could see how far we've come, but still yet how far we have to go to get on that level of play.
Do they, in other words, the way the pools are put together, Adam, does it reflect almost like how the NCAA will have a 16 playing a 1 right off the bat? Was it intentional to give a team that they don't believe can really contend for the championship a tougher road to even get there?
I think that's definitely true, and I'll give you an example. The last time the WBC was played was in 2017. There were 16 countries. This time in 23, there were 20 countries. So we were the 16th ranked country out of 16 countries in 17. We had to go across the world to Korea. We had to play opening night against one of the top 3 teams in the world in Korea, and we had to play them opening night in their ballpark. And then we had to turn around and come back and play the number 7 team in the world, Chinese Taipei, at 12 o'clock the next afternoon. So obviously, yes, I mean, you have to run the gauntlet, but the bottom line is, if you're going to move on, you got to play these teams eventually. And we never looked at it that way. Look, we were happy to be there. The good thing for us is we won our first game, which was against Nicaragua, who actually had to play the night before at an evening game and turn around and play that 12 o'clock game the next day. We played them. We beat them. That was our only win. But that win qualified us for the next World Baseball Classic in 26.
So you you'll be in it in 26 already?
Yeah, correct. We've already reached our requirement. What that was because they expanded to 20 countries, and there were 5 teams in each pool. The top 4 teams advanced. We were 4th, and the 5th place team has to requalify again.
Interesting. One of the things I observed, Adam, was that the New York Mets, who are owned by Stephen Cohn, a Jewish businessman, a mega wealth, they ended up playing the New York Mets to get ready for the World Baseball Classic. I then start scratching my head, and I said, Adam knows Buck Showalter. They worked together when you were video assist. How did that come about?
You know what? It was funny because Buck and I had been in conversation about a lot of things as it pertained to Team Israel. And Buck has an affinity for Team Israel because a lot of the people that have helped form that team, he has personal relationships with.
It might be one of the only things that he and Dan Duquette both had affinity for.
I'm not going. Long story short, Buck and I talked about it. The Mets were on board to host us in a game, but Major League Baseball made the decision for us to play the Miami Marlins, also owned by a Jewish owner, and also to play the Washington Nationals, owned by the Lerners, also a Jewish owner family. So, we couldn't really argue with it. I will tell you the greatest thing about our relationship with the New York Mets when it came to the WBC was the fact that Major League Baseball gifted us our own PR director. And our own PR director for this most recent World Baseball Classic Israel Club was Jay Horwitz.
Oh, my God.
And it was an absolute pleasure and honor to work with him and spend time with him.
He's a PR legend. Yep.
There's not many people that have Major League press boxes named after them.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. Griffin, you got a question for?
Yeah, sure. We're talking about Buck, and obviously he's with the Mets now, and you worked closely with him for a couple years here in Baltimore. What do you think his ceiling is with the Mets? Maybe this season, even the season after. Now that he's got an owner that is clearly behind him and willing to spend money.
Well, his ceiling's the World Series. I mean, let's not make any bones about it. I mean, he's there for one reason and one reason only. It's to get the Mets back to the World Series, and it's for him to solidify his ability to get into the Hall of Fame by, does he get in there? He might get in there regardless of winning a World Series, but he is there to win a World Series, and he's being given all the resources. And if there's anybody that can deal with the unfortunate injuries that seem to come the Mets' way, it's a guy like Buck who thrives in that situation of just making sure that he can cobble a staff together and get to that point where once he gets all hands on deck, he'll get that club going. I think last year really left, it sounds funny, they won over 100 games. They were the best team in the NL East up until the last week of the season. And for them not to win the NL East and not make it to the World Series, I think really fuels his intensity to get them back. And he will leave, and Stan knows, he will leave no stone unturned to get back to that level.
In the immediate afterglow, or not afterglow, but the after effects of Edwin Diaz's terrible injury, I was kind of pissed off at the World Baseball. I said, God, this thing is ridiculous. And then I calmed down. Of course, that could have happened in any way, shape, or form. But I know Buck pretty well. He didn't spend, I'm guessing, more than 1 minute, 60 seconds of, oh, shit, this happened. It was more, how do I figure this out? You know him a little bit. How quickly did he move on from the, oh, I can't believe this happened to us, to, well, we got to move, Robertson will go, in other words, his gears were moving immediately, weren't they?
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, the only thing I felt bad for him was the timing of the injury, literally, because it happened after a night game.
Right.
So I know his phone was getting blown up. He and Billy Epler were already having conversations. They're trying to figure out what moves they're going to make. And I just hoped it didn't affect his sleep for that one night, because I know that, when you're in this game, and I did it not at his level, but when I did it in the Atlantic League, and we had a guy that, we lost to an organization or we lost to an injury. In the beginning of my career, it was woe is me. And then Joe Klein very quickly said, these are opportunities.
Yep.
They're not negative.
Yep.
Find a way to get it done and overcome this. And I think that's the professional way. That's the difference between amateur and professional. You're not going to sit there and, bitch about it. You're going to figure out a way, 1, 2, 3, A, B, and C options of how to overcome this until you can get someone like that back. And you know what? For all the people that were blasting the WBC. Were they blasting Gavin Lux for getting hurt prior to the WBC? Were they blasting Justin Verlander for having a tweaked hamstring? So the things that happen are baseball things, and they happened, and the thing that Edwin Diaz occurred happened. It wasn't even technically a baseball thing; it was a celebration.
Yeah.
And so, those are. I was asked that question by another radio station. Do you think that Major League Baseball will curtail the WBC? And I just laughed, because if you were in Miami like I was, and you were part of those sellouts like I was every single night, granted in a different opportunity, this thing isn't going anywhere. The momentum that this drew, and they asked me, hey, how do you equate what you saw in Miami to? And for us here in Baltimore, because I was in the clubhouse, I was in the dugout for when this happened, it was the Delman Young game after he hit that double in the playoffs every single night.
Yeah.
That's what it was down there.
Yeah. Well, they drew, I think, 1.4 million for the entirety of the tournament. That's twice as much as the Oakland A's drew last year. I mean, they did that in such a condensed time period and in so few games. It's pretty amazing.
Stan, I was, after Israel got eliminated, Major League Baseball hired me to work on the replay system for the quarterfinals, the semifinals, and the championship. And the championship game between USA and Japan, I sat in USA's dugout before the game during batting practice.
Yep.
Because there was no place for me to stand on the warning track because of the throng of media that was told to me larger than any World Series game anyone from Major League Baseball had ever been to.
Help me with one thing, though. I get how popular it is, but I tune into the semifinal game when the U.S. played Cuba.
Right.
Why am I looking at Efren or whatever his name, Elena's? No, who's the pitcher that pitched for Cuba? Roenis. Yes. Roenis Elias is pitching for Cuba. Why is that counter to what it feels like I should be seeing? In other words, how do they get to where the best pitchers in the game are somehow part of it? And the U.S. plays a championship game where Merrill Kelly, who's a decent major league pitcher, but that's not who the U.S. should be having start that game.
No, and I think what you're going to see is the guys like Mike Trout, the guys like Shohei Ohtani, who are now taking it personally.
Yeah.
Who are going to go out there. Now, remember, there are a ton of restrictions placed on these players and pitchers.
Yep.
From not only the World Baseball Classic and Major League Baseball to make sure that they put these guys in a position to be as healthy as possible to get back to their clubs, but also from the clubs themselves. So, and I'll give you a perfect example. Dean Kramer pitched our first game and was vital in us winning our first game against Nicaragua. Even though the WBC had a pitch count, the Orioles had a different pitch count that was less than what the WBC allowed, and we adhered to that. So we're there to make sure these players can help us. But you're exactly right. I mean, Cuba had,
it was so out of character. It would be like watching Superman and seeing the guy who played Larry David's cousin be the star in Superman or something like that. It just doesn't fit.
It was funny because as you're watching the WBC and you saw the transition or the progression of Japan, and everybody was told Shohei Ohtani's not going to pitch. Shohei Ohtani's not going to pitch.
Right.
But then all of a sudden they get to the championship game, and it was fun watching him go back and forth from the dugout to the bullpen, trying to get ready in case he was needed. He was running a sprint back and forth in between it.
Yep.
So it was, but those are the things. And when you get a Shohei Ohtani, I mean, look, to have a Yu Darvish in the 8th and a Shohei Ohtani in the 9th, and how about the guy that started the game the night before, Rory Sasaki? There's some pretty good talent right there.
Hey, Griffin's got a question. I got one more for you, and we'll let you get out of here, Adam.
Sure.
Griffin Bass.
Yeah, Adam. So as we reel it back into Baltimore, obviously you worked under a different regime than what they have right now. But what do you make of the job that Mike Elias and Brandon Hyde have done creating this current roster that we see the Orioles putting out there right now?
I mean, I think you have to be obviously excited for the most part, 1 through 9. I still would have liked to have seen another veteran player or two to be on this club in some capacity, because I think that's very important. I think the question mark is starting pitching. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out. Obviously, Michael Gibbons' injury doesn't help. You've got some guys waiting in line, obviously Grayson Rodriguez to come up. As long as those guys can come up, have success at the major league level right out of the gate, then I think you're going to be good. And look, this is it, right? This is the 5th year. This is year 5 of the rebuild. So let's go. And obviously, it's fun to win that game yesterday. A little bit nail biting, but that's going to happen now. Still, obviously, it's day 1, but it's a W. I think Boston is going to struggle this year as a whole, but everybody else in the AL East is just tough.
Yeah. Hey, before we let you go, there's one aspect of your position this year, and I hope I'm not telling tales out of school, but you had a pretty special bat boy on Team Israel. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, this was my 4th go-round with the World Baseball Classic, and when Israel asked me about 6 months ago if I would be involved again, part of the negotiation in my contract was, if I do this, my son, who's now 14, would need to be the bat boy, and they agreed, and they got Major League Baseball to approve it. And Jordan did a great job. He was attentive. He got to experience what it's like to live the Major League lifestyle for 2 weeks. I will also say this, as good a job as he did and as much fun as he had with the permission of leaving or missing school for 2 weeks, when Major League Baseball asked me to stay on board for the final week, he was ready to come home. So we made arrangements for him to get home. But he absolutely loved it, and to a man, to sit on the bus with Ian and Brad Osmus and Jerry Nairn, and to be on the field with those guys, helping them in whatever he needed to do. It was an extremely proud moment for me. And my wife and my daughter were able to come down and watch it. And besides not winning as many games as we wanted to, it could not have gone better. It was just a phenomenal opportunity and experience.
Hey, last question. I promise this will be the last one. You got to work closely with Ian Kinsler, and I know he was on the team previously. And you also, I know you've got a relationship with Brad Osmus. Will both of them manage? I know Brad has had a couple managing jobs in the big leagues. Will he manage again in the big leagues? And what about Kinsler?
I would say this, and not to spill it, but Ian kind of looked at me and he said, "Hey, in 6 years, when I become a manager in the big leagues, can I call you?" And I said, "You can call me in 6 years." I think Ian's upside as a major league manager with the Texas Rangers will happen. Brad, I think it needs to be the right opportunity. Brad is extremely intense, and he had success in Detroit. Unfortunately, his time in Anaheim and LA was short-lived because of Joe Madden.
Yep.
He was the number 2 guy to be the GM in Houston. And he was the bench coach in Oakland last year, and he turned down the opportunity to go back because he wants to be a part of winning baseball. Could both those guys step in? Brad could step in right now. Ian, I think, has the potential to be a long-term manager in the big leagues.
All right. He is Adam Gladstone, and he's Director of Baseball Operations for Team Israel and a good friend. I'll give you a buzz this week. We'll grab that coffee, okay, Adam?
Sounds good. Thanks for having me, guys.
Really happy about that story about your son, Jordy. Sounds like it was a remarkable family experience. All right?
We got some great pictures. I'll show it to you over coffee.
All right. Thank you, Adam. Appreciate it. That's Adam Gladstone Director of Baseball Ops for Team Israel. Baseball season is here, and for the first time in history, you can bet from your phone in Maryland. Go to PressBoxOnline.com/offers for the best sportsbook offers and incentives so you can start winning today. Get 5-second chance bets at PointsBet when you deposit. Let me say that again. Get 5-second chance bets at PointsBet when you deposit and bet your first $50. Just go to PressBoxOnline.com/offers to claim your incentive.
So maybe we shouldn't tail Stan the fan picks. It kind of is what we learned from the opening of the show, since your parlay did not hit.
No.
Okay, so
not
don't.
hit.
Don't
I had
don't
3
tail.
parlays overall,
Oh,
but
okay.
the one that it looked last night, I said,
Oh,
hey,
this is easy.
I got this one easy. We are going to talk a little bit now before our next guest, Don Markus, joins us in about 20 minutes. I thought we'd do a little review of last night's Press Box Live Zoom. Gary Stein and I host one with sports newsmakers on Thursday evenings at 7 o'clock. That's where it's live on Facebook Live, but you can see it right now on PressBoxOnline.com. Go to the video tab, and it'll be there. We talk with
It's not
Jeff.
that's not the only show you do this week.
I did one Monday night
with Ross
Grimsley. Yeah.
Who'd you guys talk to?
Who did we talk to this past Monday? It was a last-minute thing. You would ask me that.
I'll find out for you. But you go to the Press Box Sports.
It was a baseball something or other.
YouTube page. Ken Singleton, right?
Ken Singleton. That's who it was.
It's a good combo. I'm sure.
Yeah. Ken Singleton. Great guy. Very insightful. But I thought we'd review a couple key moments from our interview with Jeff Zrebiec last night, and you and I will comment on them. My first question of the night to Jeff Zrebiec last night was just, he's watched this negotiation, and for a long time, lack of a negotiation, for about 16 months. I asked him point blank, when did he finally think that this might not work at all?
We remember at the owners' meetings last year, Steve Bisciotti made clear we're going to be ready when he's ready. Eric DeCosta and John Harbaugh had said similar. The ball's in Lamar's court. We're ready to talk. We're ready to pay him top of the market type quarterback money. And they all said at that point, Lamar really wasn't, in position where he wanted to negotiate. And then Lamar showed up a couple days before training camp, and he changed his stance. He told team officials, okay, I'm ready to do this. So I thought they would get a deal done. They had about 4 or 5 weeks there, or 5 weeks or whatever over the summer before they sort of ended talks there late in training camp so we could focus on, the season. And once they did get it done there, I'm like, eesh, I don't know. This is going to be a lot tougher than I thought. This is going to be a challenge. But I figured Lamar would go out and have a monster year. They'd win a couple playoff games, and the Ravens would open the wallet and they'd get this done. But obviously last year didn't go as anybody had planned. And now I'm wondering if we're going to be in the exact same spot next year. That's the scary part.
Yeah, so I mean that kind of lays it out for you, and that contributed to your reasoning behind your meter set, right, Stan? Like the fact that that he doesn't really have anywhere to go, I guess, at this point.
Yeah, the most interesting part of that was a reminder to fans who somehow think that the Ravens botched this or something, is how long they were. The word was all during the 21 season and after the 21 season was over, they were trying to engage Lamar in the top of the line contract. And that Watson contract that has screwed up the works here only came in because Lamar was, let's be honest, very dumb in not wanting to negotiate and very unprofessional in not wanting to negotiate. An agent would have been looking out for Lamar's best interest 6-8 months prior to this and saying, hey, Lamar, if you get injured, you're one hit away constantly from being out of the game of football. Let's get some $130, $140 million guaranteed. He was very carefree, nonchalant about it. And then when he came in, the clock was ticking last year because nobody wants to have a negotiation going on during the season. Mm-hmm. So that's my take on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could still argue for Lamar. I mean, he argued. I mean, at this point, obviously, he has not made himself money, but there's an argument that he still could have made, or he still can make himself money, because if he does have an agent, then he likely gets a Josh Allen like deal, and it's not fully guaranteed, but it's like a 4-year extension, and he's gonna make. Let's see what Josh Allen's at. He signed like a $280 million contract, 5-year extension, I think. And so you get something similar to that. It's not fully guaranteed, but it's still that that base salary of about like $40-45 million a year. But he's kind of setting himself up to try and make more money since he's been waiting. And I don't think he's been against negotiating with the Ravens, but I think he's pretty set on what he thinks his value is, and especially now
that value has evolved. The longer he's waited, it's evolved to what we've found a very unrealistic price tag for the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, and I think Lamar just doesn't think that I don't think he believes his value has gone down.
Yeah.
So
the word I used was probably incorrect. It wasn't dumb. It was immature and not professional, to the extent of, hey, you don't want to have an agent? Fine, but handle your business at the right time. And I don't think leaving themselves such a short window from July 15th to September 8th, that's a short window, when you're talking about those kind of dollars. That was an inexperienced person handling his business.
Yeah, I mean, you can make that's a fair argument, and but I still think Lamar is still a very smart person, and I think he is more than capable of negotiating the contract that I think he wants at this juncture. I'm with you. I think he needs some help in that.
All right. Gary Stein then posed a question about guaranteed money. Was this all about guaranteed money? And again, we talked to Jeff Zrebiec last night of The Athletic. Here's what he had to say on that.
I don't think that's a fact. I mean, at some point, I think he wanted that. What seems to be a fact, Gary, is he wants more total guaranteed money than Deshaun Watson got. So that's $230 million. So I think that's the bigger problem right now than a team saying we will fully guarantee every dollar of that deal. But again, as you said, Lamar doesn't have anyone talking for him right now. You hear stuff, and so to say officially what exactly is important to him, what's the one thing he needs, that's really hard to do. But the sense around being around the owners' meetings this week is it's not necessarily the full guarantee, it's the amount of guarantees that's been the major issue.
Yeah, I mean, so it doesn't have to be a fully guaranteed contract, but if he wants more than what Watson's getting, this is what Glenn and I talk about almost every single day, is that these quarterback contracts are almost essentially fully guaranteed anyway, because you're not going to get cut. The quarterbacks hardly ever get cut, and they're not going to get cut in the first 2 or 3 years of the contract anyway, because they're so lucrative. And if you cut a quarterback, you're going to have a $50-60 million cap hit, and it's impossible to do. So, it's just the owners against Lamar, and so.
Well, it's also the NFLPA against the Ravens. They've used Lamar.
Not just the Ravens, against the owners, I think.
Against the owners, but they see Lamar as a key historic figure that is powerful enough to change the rules. I addressed that with Jeff Zrebiec last night and asked him the question, had he ever heard this comparison that Lamar now wanted to be, or the NFLPA wanted him to be, the Curt Flood of football, breaking down new barriers in the relationship between players and owners.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that, Stan. I absolutely have heard that, including Curt Flood and the desire of the NFLPA and its leaders to get rid of the franchise tag and have Lamar be the guy that winds up doing that. I definitely think And one of the things I think, we talk so much about Lamar not having an agent, and I definitely think one of the hardest parts about this is, there is a tremendous amount of pressure on Lamar to get a really good deal. And it just feels like it's not just the pressure to get a really good deal for himself and his family. It does feel like, in a sense, he's shouldering a little bit of the burden of trying to help out his quarterbacks behind him. Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts. If Lamar gets a fully guaranteed deal, they're going to keep falling in line. And now it's no longer a one deal, one Watson deal aberration. When Lamar gets it, it becomes a trend that surely will lead to others. So I haven't talked to Lamar directly about it, but I do sense something like that would matter to him.
Yeah, and if that's true, then waiting. That's why I think we're still not anywhere near a solution to this, because he could very well wait until Justin Herbert, wait until Joe Burrow, wait until Jalen Hurts get on the market. Not necessarily the market, but the contract extension market.
Joe Burrow is on that now. They came out, the club and Joe Burrow, and said, look, you're not going to hear a word about it until we have something to say, but they're quietly already working on extending him. And Joe Burrow will get that 6 or 7 year deal before camp starts this year. And there's no question.
You think so?
That the Bengals and Burrow will work a deal out.
I think we're gonna have to see how much support, I guess, Lamar Jackson's gonna have from these other quarterbacks. Because if Joe Burrow does sign something before camp, I don't see it being fully guaranteed, and I don't see it being more fully guaranteed than Deshaun Watson. And if that happens, then I think Lamar's going to have to just kind of suck it up, because it's not it's just not going to happen. Essentially,
they're not giving him.
Burrow's not going
to get a very lucrative contract. He wants to play in Cincinnati. He has an agent handling this for him, and they'll get a deal done.
Well, and I think since he does have an agent, though, is the agent really going to push that hard for a fully guaranteed? We don't even know if that's what Joe. Obviously Joe Burrow would want that, but we don't even know how much of a sticking point that is for Burrow, or even Hurts or even Herbert. That's what makes this all so difficult. No one has talked to Lamar.
I agree with you. We're not. If you're sick of it already, which I am, we're not even close to the end of this. It's gonna be a while.
That meter may be up there through the summer and even longer.
And what we did talk to Jeff about is how it's boxed in Eric DaCosta. It's an obstacle to fielding the team that he envisioned for 2023, and the fielding a team that the fans really want to get behind and be excited about. And I think that excitement drifts out like that 78% chance that Lamar will be here. That's not an enthusiasm factor by fans. I think the fans realize that Lamar's his personal interests are ahead of the team's, and every player should probably have that position, but it's really, we've never had a circumstance where one player has tied up the entire team,
Yeah. And that's and that's what makes it so much difficult. The only free agent that the Ravens have brought in is Nelson Aguilar, and you look around and
says
it
all right now. Yeah, the Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines. You can choose the perfect Toyota Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today. And I also needed to tell you that the latest edition of Press Box is still available out on the stands. On the cover, Luke Jackson profiles Orioles phenom Gunnar Henderson, breaking down how he was able to become the top prospect in baseball at such a young age and what could be next in his first full MLB season. Also inside, we meet lacrosse players from the men's and women's college programs across the state. And Bo Smolka breaks down another year of wide receiver issues for the Ravens. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
Is there a receiver that might be on your wish list, Stan, that you would like to see the Ravens. They're still linked to DeAndre Hopkins. They're still linked to Odell Beckham Jr. at this point. I mean,
well, they're not getting Odell Beckham Jr.
You don't think so?
Odell Beckham Jr. will end up with the Jets as soon as they complete that Aaron Rodgers deal. I would have liked to seen Adam Thielen here.
Yeah.
I thought he would have been
that would have
an
been a good
interesting
one.
guy.
I mean, definitely would have fit the build of aging vet that the Ravens go after.
No question about it. He would have been a good one.
And we still would have been excited about it.
Yep. We're going to take a timeout. When we get back on the show, the Glenn Clark radio show, Stan the Fan and Griffin and I will talk to none other than adjunct professor at American University of Sports Journalism, Don Markus, who used to moonlight covering covering the Maryland Terrapins for the Baltimore Sun for 20-plus years. He's a great basketball mind. We'll talk to him next on the show.
Baseball season is finally here, and what better way to celebrate than with some fresh gear from Birdland Sports? As a small business run by O's fans, Birdland Sports offers a great selection of unofficial merchandise, including unique designs like Birds Are Coming tees, player cartoon shirts, and championship prediction designs. And the best part, their prices are more affordable than the big guys. Get high-quality gear without breaking the bank. So whether you're heading to the ballpark or watching from home, show your love for the birds with Birdland Sports. Visit birdlandsports.com today to browse their collection and gear up for the season. Let's go O's!
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
Have you experienced hardship due to COVID-19? CCBC is here to help. With funding available for short-term career programs, you can get back on your feet in no time. Starting this March, become a certified apartment maintenance technician to secure your future. CCBC's program offers hands-on training and prepares you for a rewarding career in the growing field of property management. Don't wait any longer. Call 443-840-2222 or online at ccbcmd.edu for more details. CCBC Apartment Maintenance Technician. Your new career starts now with funding available. 443-840-2222 or ccbcmd.edu.
Another Orioles season is in the books, and the bat-around was there every step of the way as the Birds posted their first winning season in 6 years. And after promoting 2 #1 overall prospects in Adley Rutschman and Gunnar Henderson, Mike Elias has said it's liftoff from here. Hi, I'm Paul Valley, and along with my co-host Zach Goodman, we'll be here every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon all off-season, discussing every signing, trade, and waiver claim as we navigate the cold winter months that lead to spring training. You can watch us at youtube.com/PressBoxOnline and Facebook.com/PressBoxSports, or listen live at PressBoxOnline.com/radio. And if you miss a show, you can find us anywhere you get your podcasts. So tune into the Bat-Around with Paul Valley and Zach Goodman every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon right here at PressBox Sports.
Stan the Fan here, welcoming back one of my favorite sponsors, the Costas Inn. And everybody around Baltimore knows the Costas Inn is a great place to go and grab crabs, steaks, salads, soups, whatever's on your mind to eat in person. But did you know that the Costas Inn has upped their game? They are now one of the premier takeout places in Baltimore. Give them a call now to order your food, 410-477-1975. That's the Costas Inn over 4100 North Point Boulevard.
If you need more of Glenn, you can also hear him every Sunday with Rita on 105.7 The Fan. But also, if you need more of Glenn, what's wrong with you?
Stan the Fan back here behind the mic of the Glenn Clark radio show. We're going to be joined momentarily by Don Markus, who covered the Maryland Terrapins for years for the Baltimore Sun, and now an adjunct professor of sports journalism at American University, but somebody who keeps a close eye on the Maryland Terrapins. We'll talk to him about his thoughts of the first season under Kevin Willard. Just one quick thing, reminder, baseball returns tomorrow at Fenway Park for the Baltimore Orioles faithful. They will play at 4:05. It'll be Chris Sale for the Red Sox on the mound versus Dean Kramer, back from the WBC and making his first start of the 2023 season. Orioles are 1-0, off and running by the chinny chin, the hairs on their chinny chin chin. Joining us now is an old friend, and literally, because I'm old too, he's a good friend of mine, Don Markus. Don, how are you, my friend?
I'm good, and I am old too.
Yep. We somehow got there. I'm not sure when, but it moved rather fast in the last few years. Hey, Don, you're now an adjunct professor of sports journalism at American University.
No, I'm not. I retired.
You retired from that. I've been plugging that.
I did. I'm a full-time pickleball and golfer right now. Pickleball player and golfer right now.
Well, I got to start off. What do you think of this event that's coming on TV, the pickleball event with John McEnroe and Andy Roddick?
It's funny. I don't know if I'll watch it. It depends on. It's early on Sunday, right?
I think so. I'm not sure of the time.
Yeah, I might be on the pickleball court, and if I am, maybe I'll tape it. No, it's great. I like Johnny Mac because you have to have a soft game at the net in pickleball, and he had the softest, quickest hands, when he played tennis. So, and I always like lefties, one.
And you still think he's got soft hands?
Those guys don't lose it. They really don't. Who's playing? Honestly, who's playing pickleball? I don't know if you remember the name, Carling Bassett.
Sure.
John Bassett's daughter. She's a regular at the place I'm playing down in Florida, and I actually got to play against. I played against her and with her a couple of times, and against her and her daughter, who's now like 11 years old, and she and Robert Seguso, her husband, are I think are training her for the pickleball circuit. So it's pretty interesting the transformation of tennis players. Honestly, younger tennis players who probably don't see a future in or too hard a future. A lot of them are going to pickleball.
Yeah. How long have you played it now, Don?
Since the spring. But my line is it only took 69 years, but I finally found a sport that I was good at.
All right, good for you. Hey, one of the things that I know you did was you covered the Maryland Terrapin basketball team for, I'm guessing 20 plus years, Don?
Well, I covered them as a beat probably for about 15 years, and then I was around them obviously when other guys were covering, and I was doing more national stuff, and went to the Final Four with them, and went to the Sweet 16 with them when I wasn't even on the beat. So I, and then I finished up, with 7 years on covering Mark Turgeon's, last up until his very last year. I was off the, I had retired before then, but long time.
Well, I had you on to talk about Kevin Willard, but you know me, I can't escape a moment of sort of bashing Mark Turgeon. Just curious, when did you realize that it just wasn't going to work for Mark at Maryland?
Well, and here's the thing about Mark. I was not of the belief that he was a bad coach, okay? Because he got to the tournament, especially the last few years. The problem with Mark is he did not win enough, and he did not win at the right time, which is in end of season in March, and for that, honestly, I thought when they got to the Sweet 16, but they got there by beating two double-digit seeds, and then just got blown out by Kansas, in Louisville, and then he got a extension. It was sort of the same thing as when Kevin Anderson hired Randy Edsall, and Boomer said to me, his quote was, "Don't blame Edsall, for being here. He's not it's not his fault he's here," his quote.
Right.
It was Kevin Anderson. And the same was true with Mark. He gave Mark a longer contract than he should have to start, and he gave him a longer extension, when Kevin Anderson, when Kevin Anderson hired Randy Edsall, and Boomer said to me, his quote was, "Don't blame Edsall, he's not after making it just a one Sweet 16. Gary Williams, Debbie Yao, and obviously everybody knows about their relationship.
Yeah.
But Gary didn't get anything near that until he won a national championship.
Yeah.
And no, I think Mark was a good coach. He ran a good program. He had good kids in the program. He just didn't win enough.
Yeah.
Now, I had stopped watching Maryland basketball. I wasn't watching the beginning of the season very much.
Well, Don, that's my point. Let me just throw in a question here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is that Mark, his crime was that nobody gave a damn about the program anymore. It used to be
right.
under Lefty, even under Bob Wade and Gary, Maryland basketball was appointment viewing for a sports fan in this market, and it ceased to be under Mark Turgeon.
Well, I take exception to the fact that it wasn't appointment viewing under Bob Wade. It was hard to watch. It was hard to watch. In fact, I've often referred to it as the Bob Wade era. ERROR. No, I think that the fan base was turned off, and it was gonna. I did a little work for the Baltimore Banner before I came down to Florida for the winter, and I said it was when he got hired, I was not excited about him because I thought they had hired the guy most similar to Turgeon,
right?
And he's proven me wrong so far, and that is that he's changed the way his style of play from Maryland, from his days at Seton Hall. Like the last couple of games, he knew he had to play a certain way, and to win, because he did an amazing job. He did. I think you can forget the record, the overall record. I think he probably did the best job of a first-year coach. Gary did a great job because he was dealing with all the issues, off the court, and he did a phenomenal job because of that, keeping that team. But he had 3 NBA players on that team. He had Mustaf, Williams, and Massenberg, and Cedric Lewis, and a couple other guys. Kevin Willard. Nobody on that team will. I'll make nobody on that team may ever get a tryout in the NBA, like a legitimate tryout. I just don't think there were any NBA players on that team, and he turned, and they turned the coaching job they did with Julian Reese from the beginning of the season till the end of the season. Now, Julian Reese has a long way to go if he wants to play in the NBA, because he has to develop an outside game, and he has to be more consistent at the foul line. He has to learn how to play help defense, and there's a lot of stuff he needs to do. But he looked horrible at the beginning of the year, and he had some really good games at the end of the year. And that was the thing that people said about Mark's teams. Players didn't improve, teams didn't improve, and Kevin Willard's team improved a lot from the beginning of the season till the end of the season.
Question about Reese: How do you make him not get in foul trouble? I mean, what is it that he's got to add to his game or subtract from his game, that because it ends up defeating the whole purpose of how good a player he can be, because you're constantly having to adjust to playing without your best player?
Well, I would say, number one, in his defense, he's not a center, and he had to go up against guys who were much bigger and stronger than he is.
That's a fair comment.
And once they get, like, they're bringing in a kid, I don't know, I forget his name. They're bringing a kid from one of the prep schools in Florida who's a 3-star, but they think he has
Braden Pierce.
Yeah, they think he has potential.
Yeah.
And maybe they'll get somebody in the portal.
Yeah.
They didn't even, they played this season not only without a center, they played this season without a legitimate power forward.
Yeah.
They didn't even, Dante
Scott's not a
lost all. Yeah. No, he lost all that weight.
Yep.
And honestly, I think that in the long run, it really didn't help him, and it didn't help Maryland, because I think he wanted to show NBA scouts that he could play the 3 or whatever and shoot, play, and he can't. You know, he's a good player, solid player, but he's a 4. And that weight, if he had been 250 instead of 220, it might have been a different situation for Reese, because, you know, Reese had to guard guys who were bigger, stronger, more experienced for the most part, you know, and the kid, you know, he has to be, you know, they have to show him how to use his feet more than his hands, but that's something that will come. And, you know, Grant Billmeyer, who did a great job with the bigs at Seton Hall with Willard, he did a phenomenal job with Reese, and give Reese credit too, because he you know, the player has to.
Yeah.
You know.
I'm just wondering also, what would you have thought of going to when he plays at certain moments, like sort of take 5 minutes in the first half, 5 minutes in the second half, and just go to a zone to protect him a little bit?
Well, they changed defenses. I mean, one of the things I was so impressed with watching them play, it was fun to watch. It was not only fun to watch them play, it was fun to watch him coach.
Yeah.
Because he changed up so much, and he was always, you know, and that was the argument, and that was the criticism, and it was a legitimate criticism of Turgeon. He didn't change very often, and even when he changed, I remember one time he went to a zone, and, you know, for the first time in years against Minnesota on the road, they went from 7 down, they won by 15. You didn't see the zone again until the end of the season when they were 14 down against LSU in the NCAA tournament, and then he went away from it again. They lost the game, you know. So stuff like that used to drive fans crazy, me crazy, you know, but he pushed so many right buttons this year, and Jahmir Young was way better than I thought he was going to be.
Yep.
And the fact that he's coming back, that was the big get. Because with a young, really good potentially really good recruiting class coming in, he needed a couple of more experienced guys. You know, I'd like to see. I think Hakeem Hart said he's going to go into the NBA draft.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
or through the portal.
That's a big
you know, I think he should have come back to Maryland for a 5th year, because he came in as a 17-year-old. He's not going to the NBA.
Right.
He's, you know, I don't think he's going to be a highly sought after guy. You know, I mean, he's a good player, and he probably got more, you know, did more than people thought he was going to do. He had a nice end to his career, but, you know, getting Jahmir Young back is, you know, it's like, I don't want to say it's on the same level, but it's sort of like, you know, when they had next year, when they have the kid from Paul VI coming in, who play point or run some point, and they'll have Jahmir Young running some point. It'll be like Des Wells and Mello, or Mello and Cowan, and those were 2 pretty good, you know. And to have a transition guy is really important for his program, and also being a DeMatha guy doesn't hurt.
Hey Don, this is Griffin. Wanted to ask you about you know, Kevin Willard. How, like, now that you mentioned him he's going to get more of his players in, and so kind of how soon do you think we can see, you know, Willard reaches? And maybe a better question is, you know, what are reasonable expectations as Willard gets his guys in here? Jahmir Young coming back next year. What are reasonable expectations for next season and maybe the next 2 or 3 years?
Yeah, you know, I think that getting into the tournament this year and then winning a game against West Virginia, you know, a team that Maryland lost to in Turgeon's first, you know, year playing in the end. It was a 2nd-round game, but they got, you know, and the way they did it, coming back from a horrible start and then coming back from 9 down after a 16-0 run in the second half, that's not stuff you saw teams do under the previous coach very often. And to do in the tournament, and you know, I think it really put them in a good position to build and to entice kids to come, you know, in the portal and then down the road recruiting. You know, the one thing I wrote in the piece for the Banner back in November was, his record in the NCAA tournament before this year was 1-5. Now it's 2-6. He still has to prove that he can win in March. And but I think he's a good enough coach if he gets the players that he can do it. A lot of it will have to do with how much money they can put together, in the NIL. I mean, Maryland's in a tough situation because they were in a pro market, and the people who have the money don't think that way. They think about, contributing to the program or building finally getting the indoor practice facility built. But there's no businessman stepping up and getting an $800,000 deal like the guy at Nigel Pack got it at Miami. You're not going to see that at a place like Maryland. And so in that case, they're going to have to compete against schools that you might be able to do that, against the Michigans and Ohio States, where you may have a local businessman putting huge money together for a player.
We're talking to Don Markus, professional pickleball player now, because he's retired as a professor from American University and from the Baltimore Sun. I had two other questions for you, Don. One of them has to do with this weekend. What do you see happening with such a shocking semifinal game of San Diego State, a 5, playing Florida Atlantic at a 9 seed? What do you think is going to happen in that game?
Well, it's big down here. I'm actually about 5 miles from the FAU campus, and went to a sports bar to watch the Kansas State beating who they beat the round before, but FAU was playing the next game. We got out before all the college kids got in.
Okay.
And but no, I think FAU. I think you really have to throw out any kind of like label. They're a really good team.
Yeah.
I know a friend of mine, a guy I met playing pickleball this year down here, said, "You want to go to an FAU game in January?" I go, "Nah, it's okay. I'm good." and I'm sorry I didn't go. I'm sorry I didn't go.
Yeah.
Next year maybe different.
Yeah.
I think you might get a different answer next year. I'm going to an FAU game.
All right.
I think that I think that's a pick'em game. I think FAU. I haven't seen San Diego State play as much. Brian Dutcher. Longtime coach. That's a great story in itself. He was an longtime assistant under Steve Fisher.
Yep.
And both at Michigan and at San Diego State. And you almost want to see a guy like that who's paid his dues get to the championship game. But I think it'll be an entertaining game. Both teams, I think, it looks like they play pretty wide open style. And then the heavyweights are, what relative heavyweights are in the second game. And I think UConn. I think it's UConn's tournament to lose. They are really, really good.
Yeah, they're very good.
And Danny Hurley is he seems to have calmed down a little bit. I remember a near brawl. He almost started in Cancun against Maryland when he was coaching at Rhode Island, but he seems to have matured.
Yep.
And he's put together a really. The way I had Gonzaga in my pool, so I'm not bitter or angry. I'm just saying, wow, they just killed Gonzaga.
Yeah, they really did.
And they basically ended. I think they ended any hopes of Drew Timme thinking he can play in the NBA.
Yeah.
Because they just exposed him big time.
Hey, last question I've got for you is we became pretty fond of a coach here who coached the UMBC Retrievers for a couple seasons, Ryan Odom. He left here 2 years ago to Utah State. He got his team into the tournament, and the way the coaching carousel worked out, there was a move from Penn State. That coach left, and they had to get a replacement. They got the guy from VCU, leaving open sort of a homecoming for Ryan Odom. Your thoughts on the fit there between Ryan Odom and VCU? Is it a long-term fit, or is it a two or 3 year run there?
I didn't. So he got Mike Rhodes' job.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, Well, I know Chris Nocky's daughter is going to be really happy because she didn't love working. She was the DOB out there, and I think it gets her back closer to her home territory, as well as Ryan Odom.
Yep.
But no, I think honestly, if you look at the way his dad, Dave.
Yep.
He was a loyal guy until, and made one questionable move that cost him the end of his career, probably prematurely, when he left Wake Forest for South Carolina.
Yep.
And if Ryan Odom learns anything, if he does a really good job there,
yep.
I think he probably will learn from his dad. Go where you feel most comfortable. And Dave Odom was really comfortable at Wake Forest,
yep.
and not as comfortable at South Carolina. So I think he'll be there. And that's a job that these guys tend to stay at. Shaka was there for a while, and then Mike Rhodes.
All right. Hey, always great catching up to you, and we'll do it again sometime. All right, Don?
All right.
All right.
Take care.
He's one of the best.
All right, thanks.
One of the best basketball writers who ever came through this town. Don Markus, formerly of the Baltimore Sun and a former professor at American University, now pretty much a full-time pickleball player. Thoughts, Griffin?
Oh, on his pickleball skills? Well, I guess I got to get out to the court first and see it. But I mean, knowing pickleball, I would imagine he'd probably still have a chance against maybe Andy Roddick and who else
was playing? It's McEnroe and Roddick.
It's McEnroe and Roddick, and then I think there might be some current tennis players.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But I'll break in. While you're looking up that, I'll let folks know baseball season is here. And for the first time in history, you can bet from your phone in Maryland. That's right. Go to PressBoxOnline.com/offers for the best sportsbook offers and incentives so you can start winning today. Get up to $1,000 in a deposit bonus match plus a $50 free bet with DraftKings. Just go to PressBoxOnline.com/offers to claim your incentive.
It is John McEnroe, Andre Agassi, Michael Chang, and Andy Roddick.
Agassi,
yeah.
And Michael Chang.
Yes.
So it's interesting. It's three really sort of, well, in the case of, Agassi, Chang, and Roddick, a little bit more current than McEnroe. But, of course, the most current is Roddick. Roddick was playing 2 years ago, I think. Two and a half years ago.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's interesting. That thing, we're going to get a big pickleball tournament here around Memorial Day. Yeah, Memorial Day.
Are you going to be a part of it, you think?
No, I'm not going to be a part of it.
Okay.
No. I hear, by the way, I didn't want to say it to Don, I hear a lot of injuries from pickleball.
Really?
Aging people that play it. It's a game that you don't tend to think of as, and I'm not talking like dangerous, life-threatening dangerous, but a lot of older people, it's quick moves, and you got to be in a little bit of shape to play pickleball. Yeah.
What do you make anything of John Angelos just kind of, I guess, once again shooting down, extension talks at this point for guys like Adley or Gunnar?
Yeah, that's going to be a tricky road for him to navigate because when you see the Cleveland Guardians putting together deals for like Trevor Stephan, a 4-year, $10 million deal, you wonder why wouldn't a Dylan Tate come, and start to send the message that you want people here for a while. I think they're just getting out of that Chris Davis contract. So I wasn't surprised not to see them immediately jump in. I don't frankly have a problem not extending Gunnar Henderson right now.
Really?
Yeah. There's no downside to it. He doesn't control his destiny. At a certain point, yes, the guy's played 40 games in the big leagues.
I think 25, I guess.
Yeah, and I'm not saying you're sitting there rooting for him to collapse or something like that. Let the contract that he has or his career evolve a little bit, let it breathe a little bit before you decide you want a 7-year deal with him to buy out 1 or 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, but think about, you look at the Braves, and they extended Michael Harris after, 30, 40, a quarter of a season.
Yeah.
And that, it invigorates a fan base and galvanizes a fan base to want to come out and support the team. And I think it would help, with other free agents as well, too, knowing that they're going to be able to play with a Gunnar Henderson playing with an Adley for, I think we had Eno Saris on yesterday. I think that's what he said.
Yeah.
And that would help learn
there's
more
gonna be
free agents.
There's going to be a trumpet call to make it happen. I just don't think it's happening now. I think.
When do you see it happening?
I'd say sometime during this next off season. That's when I think you might get like a Henderson and a Rutschman.
It's going to be a long time. Do you see any chance of a mid-season extension? I mean, that's what the Braves were working out their extensions in July, I think.
I just don't see the need for it. I really don't.
You don't want to. I mean, look what happened when they waited too long with Manny. Look at what happened.
They waited too long. Manny's thing got complicated because Peter Angelos, who was so obsessed with injuries because he was an injury lawyer, he balked at giving him the money it would have taken because the guy had 2 knee surgeries. I don't really think you don't want to bet against your players, but I don't think Peter should be that chastised for that. Believe me, I chastised him over how slow he was with Mike Mussina. Never should have lost Mike Mussina. Ends up offering him just what he wanted 12, 14 months before, but it was too much then, but you ended up offering it to him. But, he became a free agent, and the Yankees offered him 14 or 15 million more. You could have had Mussina.
Yeah.
When they
I don't want to be having that same conversation.
When they screwed themselves with Mussina was when Mike Mussina did something that was very unpopular with his union. He took a below-market extension because the Orioles said, this is how he got rewarded for that, by the way. He said, we don't do pitchers for 5 years. So he signed a 3-year deal. Tom Glavine, who was very active in the MLB Players Association, chastised him all over for taking a 3-year deal. What did they do? They turned around 6 months later and gave Scott Erickson a 5-year deal and didn't jump in to redo Mussina's contract because Peter's view of a contract, he signed that contract. Well, you signed it under some type of coercion. So I'm not automatically a fan of the way they do business. I think John is doing a great job, and I think he will step up at the appropriate time.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's doing a better job. Great job, I think, is a stretch. But the fans need something to be excited about. And they at this point, it seems like any player could be gone next year.
It's not all about what people think. It's what the reality of the economics are right now. And I don't think they have total control of the fortune that Peter has that they can spend the money right now. That's what a part of what I think it is.
Yeah, I mean, so it's going to take at least another season until they spend money. Do you think they'll be able to get away with that, waiting for the next offseason?
Get away with it.
What if Gunnar and Adley both have, Adley has an MVP-like season, Gunnar wins the Rookie of the Year, and then they want $200 million instead of $100 million.
Right.
So, I want to see it now.
Okay. All right. We'll see it.
All right.
We'll see it. Let me tell you about the Guilford Hall Brewery in Station North. Griffin, it is the place to be.
Great spot.
It's a great spot, and it's the place to be for Monday's college basketball championship game. The game will air on Guilford Hall's 22-foot screen with food and drink specials during the game, including all-you-can-drink beer for just $25. If you haven't been to Guilford Hall Brewery yet, this is a great chance to check it out. See you at Guilford Hall Monday night for the college basketball title game. Of course, Guilford Hall Brewery is one of the sites of the
the Tyus Bowser Show. Yes, Tyus Bowser Show was there last
Started to
last
call
season.
it the Glenn Clark Show.
Yeah. And I imagine we're going to continue doing business with them in the future,
especially if they extend them.
I want to see the guys in the diamond get extended.
All right. Yeah. What's next?
We'll take a break and then we'll wind down things. Tidbit, tubular.
All right. We'll do it all right after this.
The Baltimore County Police Department is hiring. Entry-level officers start at over $60,000 and over $64,000 for lateral officers, with $10,000 signing bonuses available. Plus, cadets start at over $32,000. Great benefits are available like medical, dental, and vision insurance, tuition reimbursement, 15 sick days per calendar year with no limit, career advancement to more than 20 specialized units, and more, with further incentives for military service members and veterans. A passion for service, a career for life with the Baltimore County Police Department. Find out more at joinbaltimorecountypd.com or call 410-887-5542. Must be a United States citizen, have a valid driver's license, and a high school diploma or GED equivalent.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Luke Jackson profiles Orioles phenom Gunnar Henderson, breaking down how he was able to become the top prospect in baseball at such a young age, and what could be next in his first full MLB season. Also inside, we meet lacrosse players from the men's and women's college programs across the state, and Bo Smoka breaks down another year of wide receiver issues for the Ravens. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition, as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
Have you experienced hardship due to COVID-19 and want to start a new career path? Look no further than CCBC. Starting in March, CCBC offers short-term career training programs like real estate sales. And the best part, funding is available for those who qualify. Real estate sales is a lucrative career that can provide a stable income and flexibility. With CCBC's real estate sales program, you'll learn everything you need to know to get started in this exciting field. Call us at 443-840-2222 or ccbcmd.edu to learn more. CCBC Real Estate Sales. Your new career starts now with funding available. 443-840-2222 or ccbcmd.edu.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Stan the Fan here, welcoming back one of my favorite sponsors, the Costas Inn. And everybody around Baltimore knows the Costas Inn is a great place to go and grab crabs, steaks, salads, soups, whatever's on your mind to eat in person. But did you know that the Costas Inn has upped their game? They are now one of the premier takeout places in Baltimore. Give them a call now to order your food, 410-477-1975. That's the Costas Inn over 4100 North Point Boulevard.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
Check out PressBoxOnline.com every day to find daily winners and betting advice from Jeremy Kahn. And if you want some advice about life decisions that you probably shouldn't make, here's Glenn Clark.
Not actually Glenn Clark.
Stan the Fan.
Yeah.
Stan the Fan. We're winding things down. I will tell you that Stan the Fan, that's yours truly, continues to have two great shows for you every week. Every Monday night, Stan and former Orioles pitcher Ross Grimsley visit with a different guest from the world of baseball. And every Thursday night, Stan and Gary Stein chat with a different newsmaker from the world of sports. This week, Stan and Ross caught up with the legendary Ken Singleton, and Stan and Gary chatted with the Athletics' Jeff Zrebiec. We played parts of that interview and dissected a little further. Find those shows under the videos tab at facebook.com/PressBoxSports or at PressBoxOnline.com/video. Stan and Ross, that's yours truly and Ross, are back this Monday night for another great show. Don't have the guests fully lined up yet, but it'll be somebody of interest. Hey, I watched that last game last night, the one that cost me about $45 for $5.
$45,000?
No, $45.
Oh, $45, okay.
It was a $5 wager, three-team parlay, made by mistake. I somehow clicked on, don't get, at my age, I clicked on the runs game. I didn't want that parlay, but Having said that,
you didn't mean to take the run line.
I meant to take the money line.
Got it.
But trust me, that 3-team parlay in the money line would have been about $5 for $15. Because I took 3 favorites. Texas was favored. Boy, that was a terrible outing by Jacob deGrom. Terrible.
Yeah.
Wanted to see, though, did you notice anything about Ohtani's performance last night other than the fact he struck out 10 batters in 6 innings and left with a 1-0 lead?
Yeah, it was incredible. He did a thing that only 25 other players have done on opening day. I'll mention it in tubular, just a little tease. He was on it. He was using the pitch-com, right?
He was using the pitch-com, so he was calling his own game last night, which is pretty impressive.
Really impressive.
Yeah. An amazing thing happened in that game. I'm pretty sure it was that Phil Nevin, he got Herget to pitch the 7th, and why he went to Aaron Loop in the 8th, I'll never know, but Loop ended up the dam busted there. But I don't think the Angels looked like they were going to score more than 1 run, so it wouldn't have won anyway.
No, yeah.
The A's beat the Angels late last night.
Yeah.
3-1.
When do we start talking about, people can complain that the Orioles or the Pirates are bad, or the Tigers even are bad for baseball, and the tanking that goes on. But how much worse do you think the Angels are? They have the 2 best players in the world on the same team, and they consistently are, subpar and under 500.
It'll be interesting to see what they do this year. They've added a couple pieces to go with those two players. To me, a key is Anthony Rendon staying healthy.
Yeah, that will help. Should help.
He had a remarkable spring. He hit 500. Ooh. But more importantly, when they wanted him to play, he was available to play. But they also picked up Hunter Renfroe.
Yes,
right. Renfroe. They suffered a little bit of a setback. Jared Walsh is hurt.
He's on Team Daddies.
He's on Team Daddies. You paid way too much for Jared Walsh.
Steve really wanted him.
Okay.
And I was like, all right.
I thought he was a $8 or $9 player, and I wanted to steal him at 8 or 9, so maybe 12. But you paid 6 or 16 or 17.
So. I think it was 15. It might have been 15 or 16.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it was a little more than 15. But anyway, he's hurt, which helps me because Luis Rengifo will now play second until Walsh comes back. Walsh apparently, I think, is having some anxiety stuff going on. I think that's what's going on with him. But there's another player that has anxiety, and that's Daniel Bard of the Colorado Rockies. Yeah, I wouldn't have much stress if I pitched for the Rockies because I know you're going to be a last place team. No, I know you're going to be a last place team. That is a bad team.
Yeah, they're not a great team. My uncle lives in Colorado. He's a Rockies fan, so
good for him. Somebody's got to be a Rockies fan. I mean, they do have a good fan base. I mean, they drew a lot of people when they were good.
Are there any other big takeaways from the opening day, the first opening day since 1968 that saw every MLB team in action on for the first day at the same time?
I just have one question about the Major League Baseball season. It's now upon us. I thought ESPN would have MLB across its, what do they call that? Across
like their headline, the headers.
The headers. In other words, it's got NFL, NBA, NCAA men's, NCAA women, but then you have to get the drop-down menu to bring you the MLB to click on it. So,
I see MLB.
My only acknowledgments about yesterday, let me see, scores of the games. Let me just give you
Aaron Judge hit the first home run of the season.
That seemed apropos. The Mets got by the
Miami
Marlins, despite the fact Scherzer didn't go real deep in the game. The Washington Nationals are in for a really long season. They are god-awful. Max Fried got hurt.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, that could be a tough injury. Garrett Cole pitched a brilliant game. Anthony Volpe heard the bleacher creatures chant his name during his first roll call.
Yeah.
Orioles get away with a win, 10-9. Cubs surprisingly beat the Brewers easily, 4-0 behind Marcus Stroman. The Rays, not surprisingly, got a shutout performance by Shane McClanahan and others as they shut out the Tigers 4-0. Rangers, as we talked about, blasted Jacob deGrom. I think they had like a 7 or 8 run inning.
I think it was it a 7 run inning? It was a 9, or Texas had a 9 run inning.
And the Twins got a really good performance out of Pablo Lopez and their bullpen. Shut out Zach Greinke and the Royals 2-0 in Kansas City.
Astros lost their first opening day game since I think in 11 years.
Yeah, 3-2. 3-2.
Dylan Cease.
And Dylan Cease pitched terrific. So did Valdez. It was the bullpen.
Cease last year had only one game last year. He was a Cy Young runner-up. He had one game last year where he didn't walk anybody. So he had walked somebody in every single outing, and he was still second in Cy Young. Right. He didn't walk anybody last night in his first game of the year. He's going to only get better.
Yeah, he and Valdez pitched brilliantly. Montero gave up a big game-tying home run to Yasmani Grandal, and then the White Sox scored a couple runs in the ninth. Andrew Vaughn, who was on my team, and I decided not to keep him. He'll drive in 115 this year.
You think so?
Wow.
Wow.
Rockies shocked the Padres in San Diego, and Blake Snell behind 6 or 7 good innings by German Marquez. Athletics edged the Angels 2-1. Dodgers get an easy 8-2 victory. Urias pitched really well. And the Mariners shut out the Guardians behind Luis Castillo on Route 66, my fantasy baseball team. Shut out the Guardians 3-0. He did not get the win, though. The winning pitcher in that game, Munoz, got the save. The winning pitcher was Paul Sewald.
Anything to look for over the weekend, do you think? Anything that sticks out?
Anxious to see how the Orioles do. You know, it would really be sweet if they could get a sweep up in Boston.
It would. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially that team.
I think their offense is going to be pretty good.
I think so, too. I mean, what do you think if you're Ramon Urias, builds off of what he did last year, and I don't know, by the All-Star break has 10, 15 home runs, he's driven in a lot, do you think he would be a trade piece?
Well, it's fascinating. I think he or Frazier would be a trade piece. The Orioles probably have some control over Urias, whereas Frazier's a mercenary. I like Frazier, though. You saw professional at-bats from him yesterday. Mm-hmm. I thought the one tweak in the lineup that really just was a slap in the face, I just slapped my face, and boy, that hurt, was I expected Gunnar Henderson to be the third baseman.
Yeah.
And then I said, well, Urias was the Gold Glove
He was the Gold Glover.
Yeah. But it kind of shocked me, and I think it's not a bad idea to give Gunnar a few days, so he's not stressed,
Yeah.
A lot of pressure in baseball.
That's why I think Ramon Urias could be a very valuable trade piece because you want Gunnar playing every day, in the field. So once you trade Urias, he will become the everyday third baseman.
So much is made of trading prospects, and you usually think in terms of trading 2 prospects for a really good pitcher. Trading Urias with a couple years of eligibility and 1 prospect for a top-flight pitcher might be kind of interesting.
Time for tidbit?
Yep, sounds good.
You want to tell everybody who's bringing tidbit to them?
Why don't you?
Oh, me? Okay. Well, you want to hold it up. We got the press box, the latest edition of the press box print edition.
Oh.
Yeah, you got it. Gunnar Henderson is on the cover. Story written by Luke Jackson. Is that correct, Stan?
Yeah, that is correct.
That is correct. And yes, you can preview the MLB season as it gets underway. And what else is in there? You got a lot of lacrosse.
A lot of lacrosse stuff. Bo Smolka breaks down
the Ravens
off-season of wide receiver issues.
Wide receiver hell, I guess we can call it.
Yeah, the wide receiver hell.
I don't think that he uses more graceful language, I'm sure.
Yeah. But the key to the issue is so far, so fast. The story of Gunnar Henderson and his quick move up the ladder in minor league baseball.
Let's lock him down. Extend him.
Extend them.
Yeah,
Okay.
right now, today.
You made your point.
Tomorrow.
You made your point. I don't think John's going to do that.
Where can everyone get that press box print?
What's that?
Where can everyone find the press box print edition?
Oh, they can find that at 60 Royal Farms locations and over 500 locations throughout the city and counties.
All right, so Shohei Ohtani, his outing was he became the 26th, well, I guess not 26th player, but it was the 26th ever outing on opening day where a player went six innings and had 10 strikeouts without allowing a run on opening
26
day.
people?
Yeah, well, 25.
You're
no,
kidding.
No, I'm kidding. Yes, no, you don't need to guess. You don't need to guess those. However, so those players, those games, those teams.
You got me on that. Yeah.
Had been 25-0 when their pitcher went 6 innings, 10 strikeouts, no runs allowed on opening day. 25-0. Shohei Ohtani does it. What do the Angels do?
Lose.
They lose.
So 25. It's now 1-25.
1-25 is the teams that face that pitcher.
That's an interesting tidbit.
Yes. And okay, so the stolen bases numbers are already up dramatically, like 200%. Actually, no, 400%. On opening day last year, there were 5 stolen bases, 4 caught stealing, so 5 for 9, 56% success rate stealing the bases in 2022. Yesterday, the Orioles stole 5 bases by themselves. They had 5 stolen bases against the Red Sox. Reese McGuire didn't really even attempt. After about the 4th inning, he wasn't even trying to.
It's almost like they had a robo-catcher.
A robo-catcher. Yeah, it wasn't even, he wasn't showing up. So yesterday there were 21 stolen bases across Major League Baseball.
And how many were there last year?
5.
5.
On opening day.
Interesting.
2 caught stealing, so 21 for 23 runners were on the base paths. And 91%.
I wonder how many out of those 23
rates.
attempts there was no throw. We said all 5 of the Orioles barely got a throw.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so the Orioles did steal 5 bases in a game. They had one game last year where they stole 5 bases as a team. And then they did that in 2019. So in the last 20 seasons, the Orioles have had 7 games. Let me make sure I get my math right here. 4, 5, 6. Sorry, 6. Well, this is the 7th game in the last 20 years where the Orioles had 5 stolen bases in a game. And they had only had, 2004 they did it once. 2005 they did it once. 2007 they did it once. They only did it once a season. They did it on opening day already. So do you think we have more 5 stolen base games for the Orioles?
I think with Mateo and Mullins, I would definitely think. I think the Orioles may do that like 10 times this year.
Yeah, I mean, and I wonder how much of it, because the bases they're bigger, but it's not like they're like crazy bigger. How much of it do you think it is just players like, oh well, the bases are bigger, I might as well steal? Also, I mean, we saw it with Adam Frazier too, because the bases being bigger isn't the only rule that affects the stolen base rate. It's because the pitcher can only throw over twice, right?
Well, I think the other thing is don't underestimate how much the pitcher is kind of concentrating on getting the ball delivered in time. It changes the mindset where I think some of what they were able to take advantage of yesterday wasn't that they were slow to the plate. It's that they just were concentrating on so much that they didn't pay any attention to the base runner.
Yeah, and that's what we saw. I mean, Adam Frazier essentially walked to second when he stole his base.
I mean, I think it's fair to say that there's a decent chance that Mullins and Mateo, if they are healthy, both start 140-plus games.
Yeah.
They could steal 90 to 100 bases between the 2 of them.
I mean, they're on pace for, 360?
Yeah, 320 right now. 320.
Oh, yeah, 320.
Yeah.
That's what they're both on pace for.
Yeah.
So that'll be a fun battle to see them going head-to-head trying to win the American League stolen base crown. Shohei Ohtani, as mentioned, did have 10 strikeouts. It was his 17th career game with 10 strikeouts. He has some ways to go before catching the Kings of 10 strikeout games. So I want to ask you, there are 2 pitchers who have 212 or more games of 10 strikeouts. There are only 2.
212?
They have 200. They've done it. They had 10 strikeouts 212 times.
Well, it's got to be Nolan Ryan.
Nolan Ryan is first, 215 games
now
of 10 strikeouts.
My first guess would be Tom Seaver.
Tom Seaver is not on this. Is not second.
How about the lefty, Steve Carlton?
Steve Carlton is not second. He is 8th on this list. He had 84 games of 10 strikeouts.
200. So it's got to be somebody. How about Jim Bunning?
Not Jim Bunning.
Okay. Can you give me a hint?
It's 212 is one guy, Stan. You should know this one. Let's see. He played in the last 30 years.
Last 30 years, 212.
Big
Jim Palmer?
Not Jim Palmer. 30 years. 30 years ago.
Played 30. He played
I guess
30.
he last played, I guess, only 15 or 20 years ago when he last played.
Okay. I used up Nolan Ryan. The other guy that came to mind, but I don't think he would have had enough longevity, was J.R. Richard.
Not J.R. Richard. Big
left-hander?
Yeah, left-hander. Big, tall guy.
Don Drysdale?
Not Don Drysdale.
He's not a left-hander, though.
No, he is.
Sandy Koufax?
Sandy Koufax is 6th. He is not 2nd, though.
And I guess Steve Carlton. This is not coming easily to me.
He played for the Mariners and the Diamondbacks. Most recent.
Randy Johnson.
Randy Johnson, yes. Randy Johnson, 212 games.
Didn't even pop into my mind.
I know, Stan. What are we doing?
Yeah.
Anyway, so 212 for Randy Johnson. He is 2nd on the list. The third guy on this list, only 110 games of.
And who was
10
that?
strikeouts. That is Max Scherzer, 110 games of 10 strikeouts. You want to try to guess who was 4th and 5th? They're both Red Sox. Well, they were both Red Sox. Roger Clemens is also had 110.
Right.
Of 10 strikeouts.
And another Red Sox pitcher. Sale?
Not Chris Sale. Chris Sale is 78, though. He
Martinez. Pedro Martinez.
Pedro Martinez, 108, rounds out the top 5 for most games.
I should
with
be
10
ashamed
strikeouts.
not knowing Randy Johnson.
Yeah, you should. I won't let you forget either.
All right. Don't ever let me forget.
Okay, I won't. We'll
is Seaver anywhere?
He was like 8th. No, he was like 13th-ish.
And with how many?
70 games for Tom Seaver.
70 only. How about Jim Bunning?
Jim Bunning, he had 51 games further down the list.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, reasonable guesses.
Yeah.
Not correct. Not correct.
J.R. Richard anywhere in
I did not see J.R. Richard on the list.
Okay. Well, he didn't stay healthy enough for that.
Give you the tubular rundown here. Some of the sports. Obviously, the women's Final Four starts tonight. So you got LSU, Virginia Tech. Both of those games will be on ESPN. LSU, Virginia Tech, Angel Reese of LSU. That game's at 7. Iowa, South Carolina will follow about a half hour after that one. Also on ESPN, Boston and Navy lacrosse will be on CBS Sports Network tonight at 7:30. Maryland baseball will take on Iowa at 4:30 on the Big Ten Network also tonight. MLB Network's going to have Mets Marlins or Rockies Padres, depending where you are. No, they should have both of them. And at 6:30, Mets Marlins, 9:30 for the Rockies Padres.
Only 5 games in Major League Baseball today.
Yeah, but then we got a full slate for, I don't know, like the next week and a half.
Yeah.
Magic and Wizards will be on NBC Sports Washington tonight at 7. FX. That's
do the Wizards have any chance of making a playoff?
No. Well, they're technically
really
still alive.
Yeah.
Yesterday they were, or 2 days ago when I checked, they were 2.5 games out of the final spot, and there are like 5 games remaining. In the season, so they
blew their
need a miracle.
opportunity about 3 weeks ago. They went in a bad stretch.
Bellator 293 on Showtime tonight. Marcelo Golm versus Daniel James. We'll see that. Glenn will probably want me to mention the WWE and AEW tonight. Fox for WWE SmackDown, TNT for AEW Rampage. And then on Peacock at 10 is going to be the WWE Hall of Fame induction ceremony. Who are your picks, Stan?
For which Hall of Fame?
For the WWE induction ceremony.
Oh God, I would guess.
I'm guessing it's probably already been announced. Not our cup of tea. We don't know.
Dr. Jerry Graham.
Maybe, I don't know. I honestly
Bruno Sammartino.
Couldn't tell you. The Orioles will play the Red Sox at 4 on Masson 2 tomorrow. Dean Kramer, Chris Sale, as we mentioned. CBS will have the final 4 games tomorrow, starting at 6. FAU San Diego State at 6. Half hour after that will be UConn Miami. That's on CBS. Flow Sports will have Towson Stony Brook lacrosse at 2. Michigan Maryland lacrosse will be on ESPNU, followed by Rutgers Johns Hopkins at 3. Mount St. Mary's will be on ESPN Plus at noon. Loyola at 3:30 on ESPN Plus. Both of those on ESPN Plus. Stevenson plays Lebanon Valley at 1. Lebanon Valley.
Lebanon Valley.
UMBC lacrosse on AmericaEast.tv against Albany at 3. Nationals play at 4 against the Braves on Masson. That is tomorrow. The rest of Saturday's rundown, go to glennclarkradio.com for Totally Tubular. On Sunday, Orioles will also be on Masson 2. So the Orioles get Masson 2 all 3 games this weekend. Why?
I'm sorry?
Orioles get Masson 2 for all 3 games this weekend. I'm not sure why.
Okay.
Cole Irvin, Tanner Houck at 1:30 on Sunday. And then at 3:30 will be the NCAA Women's Basketball Championship. We'll know who's in that game after tonight. Maryland women's lacrosse will play Michigan on BTN. Maryland baseball against Iowa, BTN Plus. Nationals will be on Masson at 1:30. On Sunday, the Wizards-Knicks will be on NBC Sports Washington. And that does it for about the sports highlights. WWE WrestleMania Night 2 on Peacock on Sunday nights. The non-sports highlights for you. Stan, I'm sure I've got one in here that I can make you care about. Party Down Season 3 finale. You probably haven't seen that.
No.
How about Die Hard 2?
Die Hard?
Die Hard.
Die Hard. What
With
is
Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart
Oh.
is it's called Die Harder. Die Harder. This is on the Roku channel. I can't imagine. I can't
wait to see that. Can't wait to see that.
It's too good. Murder Mystery 2 movie comes out on Netflix with Jennifer Aniston and Adam Sandler. They're just going to be solving murders. Murder Mystery 2. And then we have Tetris, the movie premiere on Apple TV+. This one actually looks pretty good with Taron Egerton. It's the history, essentially, of how the Tetris game started. And I'm actually I'm going to have to check that one out at some point because Taron Egerton goes to the Soviet Union back in like the 80s and 90s because he has to make a deal with them to create the Tetris game that everyone loves.
All right.
And Saturday Night Live will be hosted by Quinta Brunson on Saturday night. Musical guest, Lil Yachty. Stan loves some Lil Yachty.
I liked his relative, Uncle Yachty.
Uncle Yachty.
Uncle
You
Yachty.
didn't like Lil Yachty? You like Uncle Yachty.
Yeah.
Sunday night, Succession and Lucky Hank both at 9 o'clock on
I watched the first.
HBO
Is this
and AMC.
episode 3 coming up?
Of Lucky Hank?
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
I watched episode 1 and really liked it.
No, all right.
I
So you
love
can make sure
Bob
you catch up.
Odenkirk.
Yes, so does Glenn. I mean, who doesn't really?
Hey, I was remiss at not reading something. You know, my power rankings are back.
I was going to ask you right before we left.
Yeah, I ran them this week. It was my all-inclusive with comments about every team, all 30 teams. Now the rest of the season, I'll have comments on the top 10 each week, but I will rank 1 through 30. And A.J. Michaels, legendary name in the business world here. They're sponsoring my power rankings and one of the Zooms. Expert and award-winning A.J. Michaels Heating, AC, Plumbing, and Home Performance will improve your home's energy efficiency and comfort levels. AC season is coming up fast. New rebates and discounts are available. More at ajmichaels.com. Let me spell that. AJMICHAELS.com. ajmichaels.com. Welcome aboard. And with AC season, don't wait until all of a sudden there's a 95-degree day and your AC hasn't been tested. So call them or reach out to them at ajmichaels.com.
When's your next power rankings coming up?
They're going to come out this Monday.
Okay. So
but it's interesting. There's not a heck of a lot.
There's not
a lot. There's only like 4 games. But I'll rank them. I doubt there'll be any real substantive changes.
Orioles will be 1, I guess, after they sweep the Red Sox.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. There's a good chance of that.
All right.
Hey, this has been fun.
It has been fun. We'll be back Monday. Glenn and I will be back. We'll,
and I'll be
preview
back
the
next
national
Friday.
championship. All right.
All right.
Yeah, sounds good.
Got the Zooms coming up Monday night. Grimm with Ross Grimsley at 6, and then Gary Stein at 7 on Thursday night.
Sounds good. We'll be back Monday. Jeremy Kahn will preview the national championship. We'll see if any new Lamar news comes out, and hopefully celebrating an Orioles opening weekend sweep. As Glenn says, do you want to take us out, Stan? Go local teams. Go Birds.
Yeah.
And then what's the final thing he says?
I don't say that.
Duke. You don't say that?
No.
Well, I'll say it. Duke sucks.